A video on something I want to have a quick play around with. So, I was watching a video on a stone flour mill. Yeah, stone flour mill, like a windmill, where they crush the wheat into flour using stone milling stones. And they were kind of they went through all that kind of process. It was very interesting. And then they made bread, and she boiled the water, and said because she boiled the water because the salt dissolved easier in the hot water. And I was kind of, well, I can understand that. If you were using like a coarse salt, that would kind of like work. But then she seemed to add the hot water to the flour and then mix it. And I kind of thought, well, that's kind of quite strange. Like, why would you do that? I mean, obviously, if you're using hot water on a cold day, it would speed up the fermentation process. But I was just kind of like, oh. So I didn't really know what to make of it. And then I asked in the comments, and this guy said, oh, well, yeah, if you're using like spring water or river water, you'd boil it because it'd have bacteria in it. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. But then I still kind of thought, well, I was just curious because there's a hot water pastry where you boil up lard and water and then add it to the flour and kind of work it while it's still hot. So I just kind of thought, can we make bread if we add? Will the hot water cook the flour? I was just curious. So 500 grams. I'm not going to put my starter in because obviously the hot water will kill the starter. But we can do the process which you're normally supposed to do with a sourdough, which is add the flour and water together, roughly mix that, and then add in your active sourdough starter afterwards. So I'm going to do that. So I don't want to kill my starter. So we will see what happens when we mix some 500 grams worth of flour and 212 grams worth of water, which is, and it's not boiling, but it's hot. So we'll add that into there, and we'll give it a stir around with a spoon. We won't be able to knead it, but we can just kind of see what happens. Say it's hot to touch, that would kill my starter. Oh no, maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it wouldn't kill your starter. That's not. I don't think it would kill your starter. But anyway, out of curiosity, we'll just do this and we'll see what happens. There won't be just quite enough liquid to. Maybe that would kill your starter. Maybe it would have cooled down slightly enough that would happen, but I'm just kind of quite curious if it would do anything to the bread. And I could do with some bread as well, actually. So it's Sunday night, and I could do with some bread on Tuesday, which is about the right time for sourdough to be ready. So that's kind of quite warm, is that? Yeah, maybe it would. Maybe it wouldn't kill your sourdough starter, but we're not gonna. That'll be okay with. I don't think that there's not enough heat in that already to kill the sourdough starter. But I don't know if the hot water will. Let's move that off there before I smash it. But I don't know if the hot water will start to cook the flour and activate the gluten. That's basically what you're doing with a hot water pastry. So it's certainly a lot more robust than a normal pastry, the hot water pastry. And hot water pastry is what you make a pot pie out of. So, like a classic pot pie, classic British pot pie. Yeah, because it's something that can sit in your pocket and not crumble. That's the idea behind a pot pie. Anyway, so that's that. Well, I really should add the starter to it now. Let's get some starter ready. Hang on. Right, so my sourdough starter isn't active. It's been in the fridge, but it bubbles a little bit in the fridge. It just ferments slowly. slower. So I've just bulked it out with a bit more flour and water, and then we're at the right kind of ratio of liquid to flour to starter to everything. So we need to put some salt in as well. So I won't put any coarse salt in, we'll put in some free running salt. We'll just mixy first. We can always knead in a bit. Always knead in the salt afterwards. Yeah, so what did my college lecturer say about salt in bread? He said it was a retardant, so it slowed the process of fermentation down. It did. Salt. I did have a really good bread recipe. I can't remember it though, from college. We only proved it once. We were always in a rush to get things. So while I was at college, there was a restaurant in the college which people from the general public could kind of come into and eat, and we'd do functions and all that kind of stuff. But it was always kind of like a rush. So you started at 9 o'clock in the morning to get ready for service at 12. You kind of really needed to kind of get going. So to have you needed bread. It was fresh bread that we baked every day, and it needed to be done and ready in 3 hours, which is, for a bunch of college students in the first year, not the kind of like easiest thing to do. Let's not mix them particularly very well. Yes. So they developed this bread recipe that was just, you kneaded it in the machine, and then you proved it once, and then you baked it. I must try if I can find my old college book to see if I can find it. It wasn't in a book. Or it probably was originally in a book, but it's not one that's come together that well. So a little bit of salt. It'll kill a little bit of the starter, but only in that bit in the top, and it'll get interdispersed when we need it. It's not really a bit. I don't know. We'll see. It's a bit messy, isn't it? It's a bit ragged. It's kind of coming together. So we'll leave that to get all that off my hands, and we'll leave it to sit for an hour, and then the liquid will start dispersing throughout the dough, and then it'll be a little bit easier to work. But we'll just kind of see what happens if I add in hot water. I don't know if that's practical or anything like that. I'm just doing it out of interest, but let's be honest, if you've watched any of my videos, that's mostly what I'm doing anyway. Right, so it's had about an hour and a half, something like that. It's dried out on top. I think that's probably down to the boiling water kind of heating up the dough. Let's give it a bit of a knead. I'm not going to give it the full 10 minutes on camera because that is boring. We'll just give it a knead and see what happens, and see if it starts coming together. It's alright. It's doing okay. It's coming together ish. I think we'll lose some of these hard bits when it starts to ferment. The starter wasn't too active, so it'll probably take longer to start fermenting and rising, but that's okay. You know, I'm not going. It's not that important. It's not going anywhere. I don't think boiling the water will have done something to the flour or the water that will have a reaction to the starter and kill it, or the yeast in the starter and kill it. But we'll just kind of give it a go and see what kind of happens. 10 minutes of kneading. But you don't see it, but it looks alright. It's a bit sticky at the moment, but that's generally what happens with dough. It's a bit sticky to start off with, and you knead it, and it all starts incorporating, and it's then less sticky. And then when you start to get it fully kneaded, it becomes a little bit sticky again. But anyway, we'll give it 10 minutes, and we'll see what happens. That's happened, but we'll see what happens. Right, so we've had 10 minutes. It's alright actually. It's not a bad dough. There's still a few little bumps and lumps in it from the dried out bit of dough, but we will cover that with a shower cap because we don't like cling film because we can't reuse it, but we do like shower caps because we can reuse them. And we'll just leave that covered somewhere warm-ish to ferment, and we'll see what happens to it. So it's definitely risen. It's definitely risen. If we can get this off. There we go. That has risen, and it's looking okay. It's looking okay. But why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it? I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of difference in it. I'll leave it on there for the moment. But it looks okay. I don't feel any tighter or anything like that than usual. So I think what we'll do is we'll stick it in the fridge to cool down, and it'll ferment slowly. And then we'll shape it, and then we'll cook it, and then we'll kind of see. So I don't. Well, we'll do it now. We'll shape it now to get an idea, as if it will. Yeah, it feels kind of quite soft. It feels kind of quite soft. So it's certainly gonna shape into a loaf. That's not going to be a problem, is it? So yeah, I think that'll be okay. So that's how we shape it. What we're doing is we are pulling the dough from the top and pushing it underneath. So now, dough sticky. I can't tell you I can't tell you the technique to not get it to stick to your hands. It's just something that happens. It's really weird. You think this dough's just going to stick to you, and then all of a sudden you learn. It's almost like your brain works out how to do it. But we create tension in the dough, and that's what gives it that spring. But that's what we do before we put it in the proving basket. So the proving basket is one of these. It's just like a cross-lined basket. So we'll put it in the fridge and let it cool down a bit, and we'll I'm not going to leave it in there for the normal 12 hours, 12, 14, 15, 24 hours sometimes that I do. We'll just put it in the fridge, let it cool down, shape it, put it in the proving basket, and then let it double in size in the fridge, which will probably be later on tonight. So we're about 7 o'clock in the morning at the moment, so it'll probably have doubled in size by the time we get to 10 o'clock tonight, something like that. And then we'll bake it, and we'll see how it turns out. But it should be okay, actually. I can't see it being a problem. Right, let's have a look at the bread. Been in for 35 minutes, just a little bit longer than usual, so because it's a little bit bigger, and I cooked it in one loaf rather than split it into two. Let's have a look at the reveal. Ooh, look at that. That's certainly exploded into life, hasn't it? So, oven off. That out of the way before it burns my board too much. I've learned about an old scorch mark. All adds a nice patina to life. Sounds alright, doesn't it? It hasn't just exploded, but they haven't done recently. I don't know why I haven't been getting that nice split open recently. There's obviously a reason for it. I probably need to use a better quality flour. So we'll let that cool. Feels a bit heavy, but that'll be fine. We'll cut into it when it's cooled, and we'll see what it's like. Right, let's cut into it. Which way do I want it? I don't want that way, I want this way. So, I don't want to go straight into... I have plans for this. Oh, see, that's good. It's not so bad, is it? That's not so bad. Could do to sharpen this knife. Oh, okay. That might be just because it's a bigger loaf. There is probably a reason for that. Probably the air bubbles that have thingy-jigging into it on the shaping process. But that's alright, isn't it? It's not bad. I can see why. I mean, I'm still not 100% sure why they added hot water, but it doesn't do anything bad to it. How does it taste? Seems chewier. Seems chewier. Certainly seems a lot chewier. Maybe if you want a more robust bread, you add hot water, which would kind of make sense, because you add hot water to a hot water pastry, it makes a more robust pastry. So maybe by adding hot water, it makes a more robust bread. Maybe it makes it last longer, or maybe they just like chewy bread, but it's certainly got more of a chew to it. Well, there we go. An interesting experiment all the same. Learned a little bit of something, which kind of, knowledge is transferable, because we know that hot water in hot water pastry makes it a more robust pastry. Then the same thing happens in bread. So there'll be another instance somewhere when I'm cooking that I can use that knowledge somewhere else, or it will explain something else. So from that point of view, that's success. I'm going to use the bread for something. It's nice. It's got some nice big holes, which I do like in sourdough, but maybe not just quite like that. But anyway, a success all the same. So I'm about to cook the bread, bake it, and I was just kind of thinking while I was out walking that really I should do, so for the whole bread recipe, the right amount of flour and water mixed together and put in hot water and just kind of see what happens. So this is, I forget, but it's the right ratio of flour to water, including the flour and water that's in the starter, but obviously there's no starter in it. I'm just curious what kind of like add. I think I forget what it is. It's about half the amount of water to flour, I think, something like that. Obviously no starter in it, because the hot water have killed it, and I'm just curious to see if it will cook the flour, turn it into something else or not, because we're not heating it after we add the water, but we're just moving it together, and we just kind of see what kind of happens. That's kind of quite interesting. So I made a gnocchi which was just flour and water. It's not very nice. It's like eating slugs. To be honest, gnocchi can feel like eating slugs at the best of times, but like a flour and water gnocchi is even kind of worse. But that's what we kind of did with that. And there was oil in it as well. So it was interesting. I'm always after maybe doing things a bit cheaper, or what can we use with the bare number of ingredients. We haven't always got polenta or semolina. We haven't always got potatoes or bread. I made another gnocchi out of just bread, and it was just out of curiosity, but it wasn't very nice. I still ate it. I always do, because I'm a glutton. So it's cooled down kind of quite quickly. I'll keep kneading it actually. I'll get my other board out and we'll give it a knead just off camera, just out of interest, and we'll kind of see what happens for 5 or 10 minutes. That's all. So we've had 5 minutes of kneading, and it's kind of coming together, but it feels like a really tough dough. So I don't know if the boiling the water has made the flour absorb the liquid a lot quicker, because we do that, we mix all the ingredients together and then we leave it for an hour or an hour and a half when I'm making, I say we, there's only me, when I'm making bread, and that just allows the flour to soak up all the wet ingredients. Well, it can be completely absorbed, and then you can actually add more liquid to it. So I don't know if the putting hotter water in has kind of done that already, but it's still kind of quite warm. It's not really developing gluten in the same way that normally my bread does after 5 minutes of kneading. So I don't kind of quite know, but it's looking a bit smoother. I suppose we could start kneading some dried yeast into this at this temperature, and it would start to ferment. I don't know if it's going to be a tighter dough or anything like that. Maybe. But just out of curiosity. I mean, it's just flour and water, there's not going to be any flavour to it. I mean, that's why sourdough tastes so well, because it's been fermented for a long time, so it's had time to develop flavour. So I think that's enough of that. That was just out of curiosity, so we'll put that on the end of the video. But it's not. It's wanting to. I don't know if the heat's destroyed the gluten, but it's not really wanting to form long glutinous strands. But interesting anyway. So the dough's softened up quite a lot. So I think I just wonder if adding hot water to it kind of like activates the gluten, and then it was just tense. That's why it was tough. And now it's had a bit of time to relax. It's a lot softer. It's still not as a wet dough as my normal bread dough. So I wonder if you could add even more moisture to a dough by adding hot water to it. Maybe. That's a question for the future, isn't it? I think otherwise this video is going to just get far too long. I think maybe that's a question for the future. Might fry it or do something with it, we'll see. I might get bored and just not throw it away. But just out of curiosity, as always. So we will add about this loaf, or this dough, is that it hasn't, I shaped it like that, just out of interest, and it's kept its shape. Whereas if I'd have my normal bread dough, the same amount of flour and the same amount of moisture in it, would have collapsed more, but that hasn't. It's kept its shape. But anyway, right, so out of curiosity, let's just see if we can roll a little bit of this out. What we're going to do, I've left it out, so it's got a little bit of crust to it, but we're only playing around, aren't we? So right in there. Doesn't feel like a bread dough. Doesn't feel like a bread dough. So, bit of flour. Roll it out a bit. Might be good for a flatbread. Might make it kind of quite interesting. Might make it a like chewy flatbread. You know, like, so we've just worked out with the bread, it's a bit chewier, and I think that's because we added hot water. So maybe the same applies with this, that we've made a more robust kind of flatbread, or maybe we've even made a better kind of pasta, maybe like a water and flour pasta. Maybe we should get out the pasta maker as well. Maybe this is going to be a separate video. It rolls out to a flatbread. So we'll. I haven't put any salt in it. Or did I? Can't remember. No, I didn't. I didn't put any salt in it. So we'll get out the frying pan and we'll give it a cook and we'll see what happens. Right, dry frying pan. Not going to put any oil in. We'll just see what happens. Just out of curiosity. Do we need to see this all? Probably. Just curious. Which means this video is going to be a little bit longer. Now even more so, we're going to start putting it through the pasta machine. But that can be a job for another day, can't it? Right, we'll put some things in the fridge. While we're waiting for this flatbread something to happen with it. It might puff off, but it might not. It might be better deep fried. Oh no, it looks like it's puffing up slightly. It's kept its shape, so it hasn't shrunk much. I've got it on full whack. Maybe the boiling of the water Makes it a little bit more interesting. I don't know. Have I seen that somewhere before? I don't know. Oh look, it's puffing up. We're starting to get some air bubbles. I know you need flatbreads, but yeah. So it's puffing up. Look at that. You need a flatbread so you get a proper dough, but you don't add hot water to it. Mind if you're not, mind you just boil the water and then you add it at like a tepid temperature. That's all right, isn't it? So in a climate or country where you weren't particularly sure if the quality of the water, you'd certainly boil water before you used it. I don't think you'd necessarily add hot water to pastry or flour, but you would boil it to sterilise it. Even though you would be cooking it, something might be hanging around for a little bit longer than you'd like. So you won't if you were cooking something, leaving it around for an hour, you kind of want to kill all bacteria in it. Look at that, it's puffing up nice, isn't it? That's interesting, isn't it? Look at that. I don't think I've just invented something new, but look at that. Look at that, look at that, look at that. That's kind of amazing, isn't it? See, this is what happens when you faff around. This is what happens when you faff around. Look at that. It's got like a proper pocket to it. It's proper puffed up. That'd be interesting. I reckon we could deep fry that. And the same thing would happen, and then we'd end up with something like that. That's amazing, is that? Look at that, from faffing around. Obviously it's going to shrink back down when it's cooked, but look at that, look at that. That's impressive, isn't it? That is impressive. So turn off the heat, get it onto there, and look at that, look at that, look how it's puffed up. That's kind of quite amazing, that. I mean, it's going back down now. I suppose if we were to try and deep fry that, that would kind of happen. That was fun, wasn't it? Let's rip into it. Let's rip into it and see inside. So it properly created a cavern, a hole inside. So I don't know if that's because we are the kneading or for the adding the hot water, but it's certainly done that. That'd be really nice to add some salt in it. So that was interesting, wasn't it? We'll try it deep fried. Go at, well, not deep frying, but shallow-ish, deep frying-ish. So just it's some old oil, so I'm not that bothered what happens to it. It's one of those things that when you're cooking some things, it absolutely destroys the oil. So to have some oil in the house that you're not that bothered about, that if you're just going to play around with something, that if the oil gets destroyed by it, it doesn't really matter. So it's just some old oil. But oh, it's puffed up. So it's puffed up already. That's promising, isn't it? And then I kind of thought as well, what we should do is so I did see someone do like almost fried pasta. So they rolled it out thin and then they cut it into slices and then fried it in a pan, which I kind of thought we should probably have a go with doing that as well. So will it do the same thing if we're deep frying it? They make a mess of me chopping board, aren't they? But you can't be precious about things in life. Things are to be used. You know, like don't keep your clothes for vest type of thing. Wear them and enjoy them. You know, there's no point having something that you bought and you love if you're not going to wear it on a regular basis, in my opinion. Okay, So it's not puffed up like the other one did, but it's done that, which is interesting. And then we'll cut this into strips over here. We'll turn that down just a little bit, and then we'll just cut this into strips, and then maybe a serrated knife isn't the best for that. So we'll do that, and we'll kind of see what happens to strips. So it was Jane Baxter, and she was shallow fry them in plenty of oil, and they kind of crisped up a little bit and went a little bit puffed up. We'll just kind of see. Paper. That's alright, it's done that. So we'll have let that cool slightly, then we'll break it up a little bit and see what happens. And then these, we'll see what these turn out like. And then we might get out the pasta machine if we can be bothered. Oh, they've cut. Oh, okay. So they've done that. They've gone to that kind of quite quickly. That's all right. That's they look like pot crappings, don't they? So they're quickly cooked like that. That's interesting. That's interesting. Pretty much like an instantaneous kind of cook. We'll have to turn that off. That's interesting, isn't it? So, I've got some paper. I've got some hand towel and a cup. So let's just get that out of the way so I don't burn myself on something. And then let's just drain these a little bit, kind of see what happens. Maybe in half. Oh, so they're not kind of crispy. Interesting, but not delicious. So, not as interesting as a snack, but I don't think they'd be. Not that interesting. Not that interesting. I suppose a different type of fat would be interesting. It's just plain. What is it? It's vegetable oil, so goodness only knows what that is. Probably rapeseed. Probably hot pressed rapeseed. What does it say? Nutrition. No, rapeseed oil. So not cold pressed, but it'll be thingamajigged. It'll be hot pressed. Get as much oil out of it as possible. Oh, that's alright. That's right. That's nicer than those. So it's got a chewy bite to it as well, which would be down to the bread flour and the kneading and the hot water. So it kind of pulls apart like that. That's nice, is that? Well, I'm going to get out the pasta machine. I don't think so. I might save that for another video, just as an experiment. But this is nice. And the dried fried one was nice. And no doubt you could do it on a solid top type of thing. No, you can't, can you? I was thinking like the flatbreads, when you buy them, you can just put them on top of the gas, can't you, and cook them that way. You couldn't do that with that because it's a raw dough. Well, that's nice. Them not so much. That is. So, mixed results. And it'll probably lead us somewhere else. Therefore,